Metal Up World, this is CJ with CJOrtiz.com and MetzelMotivation.com. This is the first of a new 5-message series I'm doing on content but driven. Now, this is all shown in my Life Domination online coaching program, which I would love for you to join. You can learn more about it by visiting the link below. Content but driven. Those are two things I think we all need to learn. They seem to go against each other, but there's actually a balance. You can be content and you can be driven. For someone to be content, the obvious meaning there is that they are satisfied. They have need of nothing, or they have learned to be accepting of the circumstances in which they reside. Someone is content. You have a fussy child. You finally get them occupied and they've eaten and they're all happy and playing by themselves. They are content. You want to keep the people around you content, and that provides less stress on you. Parents know this all too well. But in our own personal life, there is a strong stream of discontentment. And that's for many reasons. You know, we look around us and we see the value systems constantly changing. And so we are given our value systems from media, television, from films, from culture, from our families, from religion, from whatever. You get these mixed value systems. And so what is the idea of the ideal life in the modern world? For most people, it's still based on some form of materialism. So you might feel, again, ashamed about how old your car is, or, how old your house is, or how long it's been since you've bought new clothes, or whatever, your status in society. And so we may have this discontentment. And so we might think that it's the discontentment that's the only thing that can create any kind of drive to push you forward into having a better life. We've all heard the stories of those who've gone from rags to riches, those who got tired of sleeping on their parents' couch or whatever, and finally got things together and started to go to work and save their money, or found some secret to success, and now they're rich and they have all that they need. But they always have the rags to riches story. And the idea is that discontentment is supposed to be a motivating factor, a driving factor in getting people out of where they are. And it can be. And I'm not saying it's necessarily wrong. The problem is that you can create other turmoil, you can create other forms of trouble by living that way, where only discontentment is creating your drive. So can you be content? Can you be satisfied in the sense of where you are and yet still driven for something more? In other words, you are driven, but you understand where you are in life. You've learned to accept it, not accept it in the sense that you don't want to change it, but accept it in the sense that you're not uptight about it all the time. You're not constantly frustrated with it all the time. Again, in other instances, frustration is good. There are certain things that you might be frustrated about that you might have created, things that are unnecessary for you to have to deal with. Okay, so for example, you might have a lot of ailments, you might have a lot of illnesses, you might be constantly challenged physically, but we might find out that most of that is due to poor nutrition and a lack of exercise. Well, that's not something you need to be satisfied with. That's not something you need to be content about. That's something you should be frustrated about and willing to change. But there's some things that you can't change, right? If you're 19 years old and you want to do all the things that the 40-year-old is doing, well, you can't change your age. You can't change gender. You can't change race. You can't change a lot of these things. You can't change certain circumstances. So, yeah, you might be in a certain financial place in life that you can't do a whole lot about. But you also need to learn to be content so that you don't become frustrating to everybody else around you, and especially frustrating to yourself. So can you be content and yet be driven? Yes, you can. Absolutely, you can. So again, the discontentment that we create for ourselves oftentimes have to do with what we observe in the culture around us, what we see going on around us, the kind of lives that people are living that we aspire to. We want to be like that. We want to look like that. We want to have that kind of job, that kind of career. We want to be married to that person. We want their house. We want their car. We want to live the life, the lifestyle that these other people are living. And then we see that, and then we look at ourselves and we think, man, I suck. My circumstances suck. I want out of this so bad. But then you become frustrating to yourself. You get anxious about it. You get stressed about it. And that affects the other people that are around you. You know, it's interesting. I was planning on talking about this, and I saw a video the other day of Rob Flynn from Machine Head. And it was one of the more honest, I think, I've ever heard someone be, and especially someone of a celebrity status. That was the most honest confession. If you haven't heard it, it was him explaining why Machine Head was going to be breaking up. And it was his band members leaving, who he had to say a lot of great things about, and he recognized that he was the problem in a lot of this. And it went beyond the band into his personal life and other people, that he had created problems. And he said because he was so driven and he was so ambitious and so, dedicated to work. And I know what that's like. And he's not blaming those things. What he's saying is he's admitting that I was driven to a degree that I hurt the people around me, that I frustrated the people that I care about the most, that I frustrated the people that I depend on the most, simply because of my drive, simply because of my ambition. That is a great example of an unhealthy way to go about this. I just also watched, if you haven't seen it, it's fantastic. It's the Netflix documentary about Quincy Jones. Quincy Jones. He's always been a hero of mine. But he confesses, tremendous achievements, this guy. I couldn't even list them, what this man is responsible for. One of the greatest musical creators and producers in the modern world. Very rare that you ever have someone like a Quincy Jones. Well, he had achieved great things, but what he suffered in was the loss of family. He was divorced several times. These women were willing, they supported him, and they took care of the kids, but they never got him because he admitted it. He said, I'm a workaholic, and this is all I know. And he lost time and time again. In fact, at the end of the documentary, they asked him, they said, is there anything, that you didn't do well? And he said, yeah, family. I wasn't a great husband. And so now he's catching up because his kids growing up, and they admitted that they didn't get a lot of time with their father. They didn't see their father very much, right? Driven to the point where, we celebrate all their stuff. And there might be a lot of you out there saying, man, I'd love to be or achieve the level of success as a Quincy Jones. Would you? At what price are you willing to pay? I think there's a balance. There's a balance. You can be driven about things, and you should be. We'll talk more about that. You should be driven about things. But you should also always carry with it contentment and balance, and understand that what's around you is valuable, and you have to care for that as well. So this is all part of the price that we pay to maximize our lives. We need to be content. We need to be happy. We need to enjoy the journey that we're on, all the while always moving forward, always working hard, always developing ourselves, always manifesting and bringing our very best to every day, every moment, every situation, and being driven, being hungry, being desirous, never losing that passion and that fire and that just dominating work ethic to get what it is that we want out of life, to become the very best that we can be. Can you dig that? Man, I hope you can. Well, that's what I'm talking about all this week in the Life Domination Online Coaching Program. Like I said, this is something I'd love for you to join. It's easy to do. It is very simply this. It is a private Facebook group which I administrate. In it, we show 5 videos a week each week. There's over 800 videos in the vault, the archive. You can have access to all of those contents, over 160 different subjects. The benefit of it is that there's a ton of people in there just like you, highly motivated people, no negativity, and we all support each other. I'm in the group, so you and I get to spend a little bit more time together. You can do the whole thing on your phone because it's all on Facebook, and less than $20 a month, so it's a great deal. You can quit anytime, man. No contracts, nothing like that. So very, very easy to do. Check it out at the link below, mentalmotivation.com/Life Domination Coaching. This is CJ, the Metal Motivator, and remember, in whatever you do, don't suck. Metal up.